Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at noon.
New at noon, a man is in jail accused of trying to rob a Grand Forks movie theater. Hi everyone, thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Lisa Bedeau. Police arrested 24-year-old Musa Bawazir of Grand Forks for strong armed robbery after he allegedly tried to take money out of a cash register at the Carmike Cinema on 32nd Avenue South in Grand Forks. Police say an employee caught him trying to open the cash register, after which Bawazir challenged the employee to a fight, but the worker called police, who arrested him. Also new at noon, a North Dakota man is recovering from injuries after he rear-ended a semi with his pickup. The North Dakota Highway Patrol says a semi driver was stopped for oncoming traffic at Highway 81 and 15 when he was hit from behind by a pickup driven by 25-year-old Stephen Pettibone of Peasic. Pettibone was hurt and his vehicle was badly damaged. The semi driver was not hurt. There's new information this afternoon about the search for a shooting suspect. Bismarck police have now arrested a man who was the focus of an overnight search. 21-year-old Benjamin Williams is being questioned about a shooting yesterday morning in Bismarck that injured another man. Police spent about 4 hours overnight actively looking for Williams and at one point asked people in the northeast part of Bismarck to stay in their homes as officers scoured the neighborhood for the suspect. It was a frosty start to the day for some of us, but things are warming up. Let's check in with meteorologist Lisa Green. Hi, Lisa.
Yeah, we're making a quick recovery from those frigid temperatures this morning. We dropped below freezing in some spots. Here's a look at your lows. 30 in Fosston and in Bemidji. Wadena also hit 30. One spot, Wilton, just west of Bemidji, got down to 29. And many places hit the 30s today. Fargo 37, Grand Forks 36 was your low. So chilly this morning, some frosty areas. Hopefully everybody's plants are doing okay. But we are recovering, as I mentioned. We're looking at some 50s to some low 60s. 61 degrees right now in Fargo and 62 in Grand Forks. So already enjoying that warm up with that sunshine out there. A few clouds passing by, but looking good. And we'll stay that way through the afternoon hours. Here's a look at your planner. Low to upper 60s on the way with more sunshine. We'll have more on that forecast and chances for storms after a taste of fall coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Lisa. A Fargo man is warning people who park at Hector International Airport in Fargo that there are no security cameras to catch any trouble, at least in the parking lot. Andrew Johnson learned the hard way after his car was stolen over the weekend. Airport officials say they don't control the parking lot. That's the responsibility of SP Plus Parking. But that's little consolation to Johnson, who hopes to see some changes made.
Well, I would just hope that they see this as an example of what could happen and try and prevent it in the future. And it would be as simple as having cameras. Just that added bit of security would either prevent something dumb from happening or be able to catch somebody who does it.
The parking company won't comment about their security measures, but released a statement to us saying, in part, they are working with Andrew and the police to try and remedy this situation. If you want to read the full statement, just go to valleynewslive.com and click on this story. In campaign 2016 coverage, former Secretary of State Colin Powell's private thoughts about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have surfaced after his spokesman confirms that the retired general's emails have been hacked. You can guess there's a lot of talk about Powell's comments. Craig Boswell has the latest from the White House.
Messages posted on DCLeaks.com from Colin Powell's Gmail account show the former Secretary of State has issues with both major presidential candidates. In one email, the Republican called Donald Trump a national disgrace and an international pariah. But Powell also criticized Hillary Clinton and her campaign for using him to justify her use of private email servers at the State Department. He wrote, "Sad thing is that HRC could have killed this 2 years ago by merely telling everyone honestly what she had done and not tie me into it. She keeps tripping into these character minefields." With less than 8 weeks until Election Day, Clinton is taking one more day to recuperate from pneumonia, while Trump has several campaign events scheduled, beginning in Flint, Michigan. Trump is trying to appeal to more female voters. He unveiled a plan to make child care more affordable with his daughter Ivanka at his side.
Safe, affordable, high-quality childcare should not be the luxury of a fortunate few.
But Trump has a new distraction. New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman is investigating if Trump's foundation violated state law by using a campaign contribution to make illegal purchases, including spending $20,000 on a 6-foot painting of Trump.
We're looking into it, as we have an obligation to do.
Trump plans to discuss his health on the Dr. Oz show tomorrow, but his campaign says release of detailed health records will come separately. Craig Boswell, CBS News, the White House.
A new Bloomberg poll of likely voters in Ohio, a key battleground state, gives Trump a 5-point lead over Clinton. The White House is planning to increase the number of refugees accepted into the U.S. from around the world to at least 110,000 in 2017. A senior administration official told CNN that news. It's a big increase from the 85,000 it will accept in 2016. The reason the administration is trying to be consistent with its belief that people should be able to remove themselves from such suffering. The United States' refugee policy has been a top campaign issue in this year's election. Carson Wentz is getting a lot of recognition after a great start in his NFL career, but none may be more impressive than what he got yesterday. President Obama gave him a shout out in a speech while campaigning in Philadelphia.
I know I'm not the first person from the White House to come to Philly this week. Some of you may have seen Joe Biden at the Eagles game. He told me, Barack, you got to get on the Wentz wagon. Said we got a new quarterback. We got hope in Philly. And I had to explain, Joe, I am a Bears fan. And we play Philly next Monday night. So I got to stick with my team, but I am going to go to Philly and scout out what all the fuss is about.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. There is a lot of fuss about Carson Wentz these days. The Boo Birds were out for the Bears comment, of course, but pretty cool for Carson just the same. He might have the president a little worried even about that Monday night matchup. Get ready to pat yourself on the back. People in the Valley are living in two of the nation's happiest states. The personal finance website WalletHub has Minnesota as the second happiest state in the country, and North Dakota is close behind at number 3. The happiest of all is Utah. Topping off the top 5, Hawaii ranked 4th, and Colorado came in 5th based on 28 factors, including emotional health, income level, and sports participation rates.